Welcome to the Kite Pod with me, Roo Chater, a brand new podcast brought to you by the team at iksurfmag.com, the world's #1 media outlet for kitesurfing. Each episode we'll be diving deep into the sport we love, from the latest gear to the people shaping kitesurfing today. A huge thank you to our diamond supporters, Duotone, Cabrina, Core Kiteboarding and Ozone for making this possible. Don't forget to check out iksurfmag.com for daily updates, news and videos from this fantastic sport. And if you enjoy the show, please like, share and subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps us to grow and keeps the stoke alive. Let's get into it. Hi there. Welcome to this episode. Today I'm sat down with Arlin Ladue from Woo Sports. Woo, I'm sure you've heard of them if you're listening to this podcast, but if you haven't, they were the company that invented the little blue box that tracks your jump height. Back in the day, it was quite the device. No one had really thought of doing this before. We'd all wondered how high we were jumping, and Woo kind of cracked that with some clever technology. Arlin's been with the company from pretty much day one. He met the guys at a tech conference in Boston where they were based, and we stayed there ever since. At the moment, they're busy running the Woo Worlds, and I thought it was high time we had a little catch up with him and discuss the Woo Worlds and also how he got into Woo. So, Arlin, what was it that first attracted you to the guys behind the brand in those early days?
Yeah, there was one group of developers and kind of early founders that looked like they had gone outside that summer. I think everyone else looked like they had been pinned to their desk, working on their pitch, working on their product. And there was one group that had a tan, that had what I thought was a wakeboard on their table. It actually was a kiteboard, and as I got into it, and they were developing this new sensor that they had come up with that all was based on the idea that at their local kite spot, which was Pleasure Bay in Boston, every night it blew southerly. It was kind of a boost off to see who could go the highest, and they didn't really have a way to measure it. They had people that could kind of look out over the horizon and try to guess who jumped the highest. And they saw this opportunity to develop a sensor that would kind of complement GPS with regards to different action sports. So at that point, it was I think it was called a Woo. There was for a second it was kinematic, then it was Woo, and they started with kiting because it was what they knew really well. And I didn't know kiting at all. I came from a ski and snowboard and different action sport background, but I got the idea. I got the kind of the concept of pushing people away from games on the computer and using that same kind of mechanism to get them playing outside. At that point, everyone was very familiar with Strava. Strava was kind of taking off in the running and biking communities, and there's other things to do than run and bike. And building a sensor that encouraged people to do new things, and we had this really good use case for it in kiting, so we kind of started there and ventured on forward.
I mean, it's quite incredible the penetration that the products had within the kiteboarding industry. I know I've spoken with Leo previously on the Intriguing Beings podcast about it and how much it's kind of taken over. But the last 5 years, you've been running the Woo Worlds, which is a kind of gamifying the game, if you like. It's making a kind of, building kind of miniature games and stuff. What was the thinking behind the first iteration of that? What was the idea behind it, and why did you decide that was something you wanted to do?
We started in 2021, which was not the first pandemic fall, but it was it was kind of on the back of that idea. And Red Bull King of the Air had been using the Woo to measure the jumps, and it felt like we always were like struggling a bit with the event integration of the hardware. It never felt like a good fit, because when you watch those events, you see on the live stream the heights, but really what the riders are trying to do is they're trying to do tricks. They're trying to do other things than jump really, really high. And if we took a step back and said, how could we play the jump height game to like its ultimate, having everyone have a set of amount of time to kind of go wherever they want in the world, putting a prize on the line, doing a little media coverage, that felt like a good idea. That felt stronger than, kind of piggybacking on a freestyle event. And we started with, a month in the fall for the Northern Hemisphere, spring for the Southern Hemisphere. That felt like an interesting way to do it. Instead of doing all year and kind of interest would come and go, we wanted to do like a intense month. And, pretty early we brainstormed kind of what else could we measure other than just who jumps the highest. And the two that kind of came to mind, we had GPS recording, so we could do things like, how far you went or how fast you went. The GPS recording on Woo is through your phone or through your smartwatch. So kind of using those as our basic metrics, we came up with a series of challenges that we could give to our team, to our riders all over the world. And through that month of challenge, we could put up some prizes and we could kind of like have it be kind of like the world champs of Woo for 1 month. So yeah, that first year we ran, a few individual disciplines and then a few team disciplines. The most obvious one was who jumped the highest. We also did one around who could accumulate the most jump height over a set period of time. So that was kind of like an endurance, who can stay out there the longest. And then we looked at speed. So we said, who can ride the furthest in 1 hour? So that was kind of a good mix of endurance and kind of top performance. And then on the team side, we could do like as a team, who had the highest 5 jumps, kind of spread out, across your team. So yeah, it was the beginning of like changing the focus to something that was more native to Woo, something that we could do really, really well, where we could get kiters all over the world to participate and start to just like highlight new faces and new spots. And I don't know if you've done the world tour thing, you go to the same beaches with the same riders over and over again, and they are the best. And it's a crazy show when it works, Mega Loop and the whole thing. But there's a lot of people in our kite community that can show up to something like the Woo Worlds, put down a score, get their team together. And now that we've done it now 5 times, it's like there's this really cool kind of tradition now to it where, if you're in Australia or New Zealand every spring, that this event's going to happen and start your season. If you're in the Netherlands, the fall storm chase is on. So yeah, it was a good idea, and it's become an idea that we've really run with, and I think are having a lot of fun with this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking at, the website and everything that's going on at the moment, it certainly looks like it's grown. How was the uptake from the community for that first year when you ran it? Was there some good interest from everybody?
I mean, the biggest demand that it filled was that people wanted to play for real. Like they wanted some real stakes. They didn't just want to go out and jump high. They wanted something on the line. So putting cash prizes up, putting kites up for grabs, like putting some real prizes on the line, that made it really fun. And I did some of the storm chases with some of those Dutch riders up to Denmark where they were going for the world records, and like, yeah, they're promoting their kite brand and they're promoting themselves, but to like have a real prize and some, a medal at the end of it just raises the interest that much more. And then the team stuff is really fun because, you have teams kind of competing with each other, but you also have within a team, you have this kind of internal challenge. So if you take everyone from your local kite shop or your local, your kite club or your area, it's just fun to kind of see all those names on the board and see everyone out there together. So for an individual sport, adding that team element has been a really good thing to do.
Yeah, I noticed like the Nations Cup as well, like that gets pretty hotly contested, right? With people
That's
from
the goal.
different countries really going up against it. I know with
Yeah.
like with the Woo, obviously you've got the pro riders that are getting the world records, and for most people that go kiteboarding, right, that's probably never going to be achievable. But you always end up with this competition within the competition where you're trying to beat your mate or your local buddy at the beach. Is that
Right.
something that comes out with the Woo Worlds as well? Like, obviously for most average kiters, they're not going to be taking home the top prize, but are there like, intra competitions along the way that you see popping up where people are trying to beat their buddies within the Woo Worlds and claim that prize in the month period?
I mean, on our team this year, the people that are building Woo, we have our own little team leaderboard. Talking to, a lot of different countries, a lot of different, team captains. Some of them have made a spreadsheet of everyone on their team where they are tracking if they beat their personal best during the Woo Worlds. So instead of it being about how you compete against others. It's how you compete against yourself. Like, can you go out and jump a little higher than you've ever jumped? And the same with the distance 1 hour. Like, I was out the other day here in the UK, and I was, zipping around on my twin tip, got a score, and I was like, I could probably beat that. Like, I could probably, jump on a foil, or I could, go a little bit faster. And yeah, I think it's a good excuse to kind of try this stuff. I mean, the funny thing about this event is, like, we're all used to following sports. We're all used to spectating sports. We're all used to, like, being on the sidelines. This event is not about being on the sidelines. This event is about participating. Go out, record a session, get a score, and then if you really push yourself to go faster, you go jump higher, it all makes sense. It all makes sense why this is so addicting and so fun. Um, and yeah, to see your name on the leaderboard is super cool. Like, to, have your score count towards something is great.
Yeah, I guess that's where, like you said, you didn't just have, it's not just about the highest jump, it's things like the cumulative jump. You might not be able to jump the highest out of your group, but if you can get down the beach more often and log more sessions, then you can get that cumulative
Right.
jump height. And, there's ways to kind of participate right across the board, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Do you have to do any kind of behind the scenes checking up on people's data and making sure that they're playing fair? Because I'd imagine with, is it like about 100 grams worth of prize money or something this year, or 100 grams worth
Right.
of prizes? There's a
Yeah.
lot of money on the line. So I'd imagine
Real prizes.
there's probably, you might have to be adjudicating a little bit to make sure it's fair play.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, to have a game that people want to come back to and keep participating in, the results have to be legit. It's like the highest jumper needs to be the highest jumper. The fastest person needs to be on a kiteboard, not driving home from the spot. It has to be real. So when it's in person, that's a lot easier to do. When you're spread out across the world, um, we have the view of, a few things. We have the view of the sensor, whatever the sensor saw on the board when it comes to jump height. We have the view of the GPS recording for the speed. We also have things like weather data, so we can look at, like, local weather meters to see kind of what was happening that day. We have the history of the rider, so we know kind of where did that rider usually show up on our leaderboards. Um, and then we always have, like, firsthand accounts. We always try to call people and chat and see, get their story of what happened. Get, maybe a second or third opinion if it's something super important. Um, yeah, there's always a bit of a human referee to this. And we've added a lot of filters and a lot of checks on the results to make sure that things uh, that could happen are accounted for, and things that probably will never happen are kind of excluded. So, for example, we're running this distance 1 hour. So it's how fast can you sustain on a kite or on a wing? And usually it's on foil. And our world record right now is about 62 kilometers. So this was literally an Olympic kite foiler, Riccardo Pianosi, ripping down Lake Garda in, like, the perfect, tack direction, perfect run, perfect wind. We all know now that 62 kilometers is about as fast as you can sustain for an hour. And a lot of the data that we get is kind of relative to the performance of other riders. We've seen now how fast the wingers can go. They can start to crack into the 50-kilometer range. So yeah, there's a bit of human refereeing. We want the results to be fair. We just finished, as of today, the team total height. So this is 48 hours to do as much jumping as you can, stacking height over and over again. And in the past, I wouldn't say people have cheated it, but they've definitely pushed a little bit what's allowed. So they've come up with some creative ways to jump over and over again. They've maybe had two woos on their board instead of one. Um, that's the kind of stuff that we've adjusted and accounted for as we've run this year over year, so that we catch that automatically and don't have to, like, filter through the leaderboards. We were actually just having a conversation about confirming the results of this year's event that happened this weekend, and it went very smooth. Like, a lot of the filters are already in place. A lot of the quote unquote cheating has already been detected. Um, and we've called a lot of the participants in those podium position teams to get their perspective on what happened and, their story. So Yeah, it takes a little bit of human intervention to like get it right, but it also uncovers a lot of the really cool kind of moments that happened on the water. You know, if you go out for 48 hours and just try to jump for 48 hours, like something's going to happen out there, whether you break or your board breaks or, something. So,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I imagine it's quite a bit of work to actually oversee it all, and it's good to hear that you guys do take it seriously, and that's something I've had from the Woo company before, is that how much you do care about the results that you're putting out, and you want to make sure that they are legitimate, because it just makes it fair on everyone that's playing the game, right? If someone's being a bit nefarious, then it's not such a great way to play, and then people get fed up of it. One thing that always blows
right.
me away, and I don't know if you were expecting the results of this, but the draw anything competition,
Hmm.
which is just mind blowing sometimes what people seem to be able to come up with and how they draw it. Were you ever expecting
Yeah.
it to be anything more than some triangles or, someone drawing a circle or something like that? Did you ever think it would get as wild
Yeah.
as it has?
It's been incredible. The draw anything is basically a challenge to use your GPS recording during your session to draw a picture. So to like kite around and draw a picture like almost like an etch a sketch. And when we first did it, we said, okay, let's just draw a heart. Like we said, who can draw the best heart? That was the first year. And then the second year we said, okay, we're gonna open it up, draw whatever you want. Hopefully it's not too many like, you know,
Dicks.
dicks or whatever. Yeah, there's a few, but
Yeah.
not too many.
Boobs and yeah, I can
Um,
imagine.
and the most impressive thing was the creativity of and the complexity of the drawings that some of these guys started to come up with. And what we learned was it was on the back of a couple of things. One was that they were kite foiling, so they could go upwind a lot more directly and basically have more control over their drawing. Um, they realized that they needed to make the drawings very big so that they had enough like detail and space to kind of draw them out. So they ended up being these like, 30, 40, 50 kilometer kite sessions where they're just like drawing this massive picture. And then really the cool thing was that they figured out if they set a course for themselves to follow on their watch using, basically a second watch, they can pre-draw kind of the idea of what they want to draw, and then they can kite it and kind of follow the directions. And it's made for just some incredible like uses of terrain. Like people have used islands or used, the coastline as like a kind of a part of their drawing. Um, and I don't know, it's just a refreshing kind of different take on quote unquote a kite competition. It does obviously require kiting or winging skills, but a lot of it is just like, yeah, the idea that you have, the drawing you have, and then executing it. Um, and yeah, it's always been one of our favorites. And this year, I was actually really excited because one of the kids that won the previous editions, he joined the Jacobson Kite team this year. So he's Danish and he's now friends with Nick and the crew, and he's now working for them out of their office in Copenhagen. And so we approached them and we said, "Hey, like if Johan can draw something this year, and kind of teach the community how he does it, that could be a really cool video." A lot of people have been asking, how do they possibly draw these things? And so we had kind of planned that, and then you know the Graham Howe situation. We all lost a really good friend in Graham, and we all were kind of looking for ways to keep his spirit moving forward. Um and Johan thought, hey, why not do a signature Graham hand drag as his drawing this year? So yeah, this was posted this weekend, was a video of him kind of going out near Copenhagen and doing the drawing with a filmer there, with Isaac there on the drone, and kind of getting all the process. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just cool to kind of think up a different way to like have a kite session, make something while kiting. Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, it's bonkers. I mean, it's definitely blown my mind. I saw the picture of of Graham, and it was just like, what? That's just nuts. Like, there was
Mhm.
someone was it a mermaid as well that looked
Right, right.
pretty intense. And I was like, how the hell have they drawn the scales on the fish tail? But it's really impressive. It just goes to show that humans, you set them a task and they can, completely blow out the water what you thought they might be capable of, and the way that
Right.
they'll come to problem solving and stuff is really, absolutely bonkers. Really, it's really good. So you've got
Mhm.
another couple of weeks left of the competition to run at the moment, right? And then going to be handing out the prizes. Do you think the world record is going to be broken this year in that time frame?
That's a good question. So the world record right now, I think, is 36.7 meters. It was set this time last year by Hugo Wigglesworth, who's
Yeah,
a Kiwi. And Hugo really is having his first year as a professional kiter. We all learned about Hugo through his world record and through his scores on Woo Worlds. And if you grow up in New Zealand and you want to compete worldwide, like the Woo Worlds is kind of your perfect ticket in because you don't have to go anywhere.
yeah,
You don't have to leave the
yeah,
island, and you have great conditions in New Zealand. So the spot that was the world record was broken was Plimmerton, which is a town near Christchurch and kind of the middle of New Zealand. And it's a bay where the wind kind of comes off the ocean and funnels into this like choke, creating a lot of turbulence and a lot of kind of chaos. And um, the team, the Flying Kiwis, which is Hugo's team, has figured out that this is the spot to jump high because the updrafts and just like the craziness of it. So last year, Hugo broke the world record there. He did it on a Fly Surfer era kite that is a Dacron kite. It's kind of kind of your everyman kite. It's a good
yeah,
design, but it's not like anything crazy. It's not like a foil kite or a Lula or anything like that. And throughout this last year, we've had people try to top his record in Cape Town or Denmark, all over the world, Iceland. Um, no one's been able to top it. So 36.7. Even Hugo tried to top it. He did a 30 something meter jump in France during the Lords of Tram, and you know there's been a lot of close calls. But yeah, the when you think about the world record of Woo, it's a combination of not just the rider and their ability. It's a lot. It has to do with the wind that day. Being in the right spot at the right time, having the right equipment. Um, and obviously having the skills and like the comfort to be out there in that much wind. So, Hugo sets this world record, goes to France for the Lords of Tram. Lords of Tram, maybe the windiest Lords of Tram we've ever had, maybe one of the windiest kite competitions we've ever had. At one point, the kite competition had to stop because it was so windy. Everyone was kind of just scared, and Hugo was unfazed. Like he was as cool as anyone. Like he had Andrea Principi, he had Lorenzo, he had all those guys around him. Hugo was not bothered. And he went out and he jumped 30, 35, 36 meters out the back, not like during his heat, but like while he was warming up. And you could tell he's just like he's been in this a lot more and he has that comfort. Um so when we get back to that question of will the world record be broken this year, I think the reason that it will be broken is that Hugo is a year older. He's a little stronger. He's back in New Zealand. He just flew home after Megaloop. Um, New Zealand does get a lot of wind and it gets pretty consistent wind. So there probably will be another shot at him going to that same spot. He's got, a couple different kites to choose from. He's got an Era, which is what he broke the world record on. He also now has this Fly Surfer Sonic, which is like a foil kite that seems to jump really high. Evan just jumped 35 meters on it, or 34 meters on it the other day. Um, and yeah, I think that's the reason why someone would break the world record and kind of what we're anticipating. I will say though that when we saw the highest jump so far for Woo Worlds, it was from a new rider, it was from a new kite, it was from a new spot. All those things were different. So as much as we think we can predict this, you know, um, our top jump so far is Lovie Smith. He was up in Texel, northern Netherlands, and he was riding an orbit and super expert kiter, but like not the combination we were anticipating. So Yeah, I don't know. I should have like a pager, like a beeper on me at all times in case there is a world record. Because last time Hugo did it, I remember I was like, away from my laptop and I had to like sprint back to the office and, check the results. And because as soon as it's out there, like it really gets out there. So,
Yeah. And then you got to try and check that it's not an anomaly and that it's fair and legit.
yep.
Because there's a lot of people pushing for that record, right? It's become quite a thing. So it'd be interesting to see if you get the conditions. I mean, it's always quite fitting if it happens during the Woo Worlds month, I guess, that
Mhm.
it gets broken. And this year you've got the wing competition running as well. So I wanted
Yep.
to touch base a little bit on that. How's the take up been for wingers getting involved with Woo? What's that like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of wingers that first came onto Woo were kiters, kind of switching over to winging or adding winging as a sport. So we have on Woo a lot of features that are designed for kiting, and by proxy work really well with wing. So we have a big spot database of places you can go ride and are common places to go, launch from. That's a little bit more relevant for kiting than winging because it's, you guys know the rigging involved in kiting is a little bit more than winging, but um, we have that. We have your quiver of your what kites you're on, what boards you're on. Um, that shows up in the app, and then we have this community that's just like people that like to do these sports. It's not Strava, it's not everyone, it's just people that do these sports. So um, we added the ability to switch your session type to wing, as kind of a choice in your quiver, and we've given them the same games to play as the kiters. So distance 1 hour, highest jump, like all those same games. Um, we're still learning what works really well with winging. I think what we've noticed is that the GPS and the distance and the speed are a lot better fit for winging. The jumping is, you see a lot of it online, but for most wingers, jumping is not really the point. Like the point is more to ride waves or to, just stay on foil and cruise around. So yeah, it's still it's an emerging part of, if you talk to the industry people, the winging is what's selling, what's growing, and where the lessons are, where the equipment's being sold. So um my job is to come up with a game that works well for the wingers to kind of complement all these other ideas that we've had. And yeah, I think a lot of our ideas will work for the winging. Will it be as big of a home run as jump height is for kiting? I think that's what we're kind of searching for right now. But it's certainly fun to just share your session on Woo, share the spot you were out, the wing or the kite you were riding, um, and the performance benefits. I think we're all a little bit curious, like how fast can we go on a wing, or how much can we jump, or yeah, how far can we go in an hour? So
Yeah.
yeah, I will say it's been interesting to watch windsurfing transition to kite, and now kite transition to wing, in the sense that the communities you would think would be more integrated, but it's crazy. Like we love to just like silo ourselves off and like hang out with just our friends. And I don't know. I think here in the UK we see a lot more crossover with the wingers and kiters, but when you go to these events, when you go to like Cape Town, for example, it feels like it's all kiters all the time. And one thing that we've pushed this year with Woo Worlds is actually integrating more the kiting and the winging together, and not just the jumping, but also the speed. So if you look at the Nations Cup format this year, we have every country's score is a combination of your best kite jumps as well as your best wing jumps, as well as your best racers for distance 1 hour. And those are all little kind of sub communities within this wind sports world that don't seem to pay attention to each other very much. So I think it's an opportunity. I think Woo can be kind of that glue to bring it together, so that you when you check the session feed by your area, it's like, yeah, I want to know where the wingers are too. Like they're probably finding good wind and getting out and on the water. So yeah, it's an evolving goal of ours.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I think a lot of windsurfers kind of turn to winging certainly
Mhm.
in my area where I am, and then a lot of kiters have stayed kiting, and they're because they've stayed
Yep.
kiting, they're like, you know, a little bit like the windsurfers who didn't want to take up kiting. They're very much, oh no, I don't
Right,
want to do
right.
that.
Yep,
Yeah, there's that
yep.
little bit of like strange animosity, even though we're all out there just trying to enjoy the same thing. And
Yeah.
for someone listening to this that's, you know, keen to get involved with Woo, you know, how's they go about that if they've never heard of Woo and what it is? What's the way for them to get involved? How do they get involved with the Woo Worlds next year? What's
Right.
the
Well,
advice there,
depending on
Arlin?
when this episode comes out, they might be able to sneak in a 2025 session. But the Woo Worlds and Woo app are it's it all starts with our app. So we basically came up with a community app that you can share sessions, record sessions, look at different spots, look at different kind of historical forecasts for different kite spots all around the world. The app is free. You know, you make an account and you basically can see all this activity coming in from all over the world, and you can follow riders that are active on there. You can, you know, search for different areas, see spots, you know, see who's out at certain spots. Um, we've always had leaderboards. Leaderboards have always been a big part of Woo. So originally it was who jumped the highest, but all sorts of leaderboards. Most days kited this year, most distance ridden this year, you know, whatever you want to filter it by. You can filter it by nationality, you can filter it by gender, age, whatever. So that's kind of your starting experience with Woo is just observing what's going on with all the activity. And then if you want to post a session, if you want to like record your riding, you have the ability to do it with GPS. So you can do it by using the phone app. You can pair your smartwatch. So we make an app for Apple watches, for Android watches, for Garmin watches. They can all record a session and post it to the app. Or you can go buy a sensor, a Woo sensor, and that will let you measure how high you jump and kind of what you do in the air. So the usually what I recommend for people is like maybe your first time out, you can use the phone just to, you know, you already have it. You might already have a dry bag for it. You know, go out, record a session. If you have one of these smartwatches, they work well for the GPS. And then if you can get a sensor to start playing the jump height game, um, that's your best bet. You can even pair the watch to the sensor so you can see how high you jump. Um, and we've even built like a watch only jump estimation for the Apple Watch and Android Watch. Um, it's not quite as fun as having the sensor because it's just not it's a harder thing for us to like verify the results of. So it ends up being kind of a more simplified version, more like kind of beginner version of Woo. But yeah, I think the people that are having the best time are either on that ladder to like jump higher. You know, they're like every session, they're like, I want to go a little bit higher. You know, I'm getting my kit figured out. I'm learning how to jump. Or they're the people that just love the idea of like having this journal of every time they were on the water. And whether it's like a kite surf session where they're just doing GPS or whether they're winging and maybe they're just using the watch, or they do have a big, you know, strong day and they want to measure how high they jump, they use the Woo sensor. So yeah, I think ultimately like the vision for Woo is that it's kind of this kite journal for yourself that shows your career over kiting, winging, you know, whatever comes next, and that you get to share that journey with the community. Um, so yeah, it's a cool app to just download. Like I mean, even if you know if you've never had interest in jumping, you can still download the app and like actually see a lot about some spots nearby you. And there's some really cool like photo galleries for each of the spots. Um, yeah, I mean, I spent the last few weeks hosting this competition using the app, and yeah, just going into these spots that we had never heard of. You know, we'd see a session come in. There was one the other day from Sandy Bay, and it was like, where is Sandy Bay? And it was like the northwest corner of Australia, up by Exmouth, Australia, and it was like this crazy peninsula that someone was out all day on. And I don't know, it's just like this sport is full of that. Like the more you really listen to what other people are doing and kind of pay attention, you can really find some cool stuff.
That's a great answer. I like the fact that, you know, a lot of people obviously associate Woo with the device,
Mhm.
because it's always been, you know, that's it. So I like the fact that, you know, it's more about the community, getting the app, getting involved in that, and then the device is there if you want to measure certain metrics, but you don't need
Right.
it to join the community and have fun and be part of it and learn more about where you can go kiting and who's kiting where and what to
Right.
do. I think that's a really nice aspect of the business. That's a good takeaway point, Arlen. Thanks for that.
Mhm.
That's good. What's the plan for the rest of the 2 weeks? What's the upcoming bits of the competition that have got to be finished?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were looking back on this weekend. We just had team total height. So that was kind of the most extreme, committed version of a team competition. Um, it was a 48-hour competition. So it started in your local time at Saturday, 0:00 a.m. And it went all day Saturday and all day Sunday. It ended Sunday at the end. And, you know, we're going to run that same format in 2 weeks, October 11th, 12th. And this time it's going to be distance. It's not going to be jumps. So all of a sudden we have the ability to run, wingers and kiters kind of next to each other, whoever can go out the furthest. And it's a team format. So it's your top 5 scores count. I'm really curious what people get up to for this October 11th, 12th, because we just saw a taste of it. We saw a taste of it from probably realistically like 3 or 4 teams went out in the dark and really pushed it. Like really, really, like to the point that they were blistering on their hands from jumping so much, like just the edge of their ability. I think we're going to see at least twice as many teams go out for team total height in like the full extent of the competition. And sorry, for team total distance. And I don't know. I'm just waiting for this session to pop up where someone kites from like, the UK to like Spain for team total distance. Like I think we're gonna see something kind of nuts. And I don't know, I'm excited. I think you always can try to guess what's gonna happen with this contest, but um a lot of it is just prompting people with a challenge and just seeing how they respond. And I think that this is the one that I'm the most excited for, is the team total distance. We've never run it over 2 days. We've always run it over like 8 or 9 days. So to run it over 2 days means that you have to really push all 48 hours that you have available, if you want to be competitive. And not only do you have to push, you have to be fast. Like you can't just go out and cruise around. Like you need to find a vessel that, whether it's a foil or a speedboard or something. So I don't know. I'm excited for that one. As far as storms coming up, I think we have some wind coming next week in Europe. That's always,
Yeah.
we're always kind of at the mercy of the forecast. So, um, yeah, you just never know when that's going to happen, when that's going to hit. So, luckily, we have
Yeah.
New Zealand, South Africa. We have lots of different locations, but yeah, that's always the X factor.
Yeah, I think next weekend's looking pretty wild, isn't it? I saw on the,
Hmm.
the long range forecast is like 40 knots, I think, coming into the UK. But I guess
Hmm.
that's the nice thing about it being a global competition, that if in that month period there's a good chance wherever you are, you're going to get some good wind roll through, and that's going to give you the opportunity to compete and to have a crack at it. And yeah, I'm excited to see where the team distance ends up. If the draw anything standard is something to go by, I've no doubt there's going to be teams
Yeah.
out there trying to kite for 48 hours straight as fast as they can.
I mean, the
And
report this weekend was they figured out how to ride at night. And whether it was safe or not is up to you to debate. There was lights on their kites. There was lights on their bodies, on their boards. They had a light on shore with like a tent, like a support tent, so they knew kind of where home base was. All that being said, they still felt pretty seasick riding at night and trying to jump over and over again, not really having like a clear floor that they were riding on. Um, there's probably better lights they could use. There's probably a different experience if you're kiting or just riding back and forth. If you're foiling, you know that sounds dangerous. That sounds pretty
yeah.
fast. So the team element is definitely part of this. But yeah, I think even if you do it all during the daylight hours, this time of year in the northern hemisphere, you should have a solid 12, 13 hours of daylight. Um, and if you do it on a race foil, or if you do it on a foil, like you can cover some pretty solid
Cover some
distance
distance.
in 24 hours of riding. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be fun to follow, and I'm hoping to answer your wing question a bit. I'm hoping that the wingers realize that they're competitive in this discipline. You know, some of the longest sessions we've ever seen on Woo are on the wing, and yeah, get a good harness strap and buckle in.
Lock in, see how far you can go
Hmm.
and how long you can go for. I think it's
Yeah.
great. I mean, I've always, been a fan of the company and what you did. I know, there's been ups and downs with the products over the years, and certainly just the idea of gamifying kiteboarding, I think, was such a great, idea to make it, more fun for everyone. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that winging can really benefit from, right? Is that the Woo brought a community together and got people back into the sport that had maybe fallen by the wayside, and
Right.
developed all these little intra competitions between local beaches and the local riders at the local beaches all trying to beat each other. So, I think there's definitely potential there for the wing community to kind of have something that brings them together as well. So it's definitely exciting times. But Arlin,
Yeah.
thanks very much for giving us the lowdown on the Woo Worlds. Good luck with the
Mhm.
rest of the competition.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, we're
And
we're in this 30-day sprint right now as a team, and we're halfway through, so we're
yeah, you're almost
feeling
there.
good.
Another two
Yep.
weeks, and you can have celebration beers. And yeah, I hope that the win comes through and we get the world record broken. And the distance overall from the team is something that blows everyone's mind. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
To finish this up, the current standings for what we call the Nations Cup, which is the top 3 jumpers overall for kite, top female jumper, top junior jumper, top senior jumper, and then men's and women's wing jump and distance 1 hour, men's and women's. So those 10 scores, um, to give you an idea of kind of where we're at right now, these are your top 10. So Netherlands is in first, Germany second, New Zealand third, South Africa fourth, UK fifth, Australia sixth, Estonia, sleeper, seventh, US eight, France nine, Denmark 10. So what this means is if you want to compete in the Woo Worlds, you can go onto this leaderboards.wooworlds.com, and whatever your home nationality, whatever your home passport is, you can put up a score for that country. And if you can beat one of those scores on your team that count toward the total, you can push your team up that ranking. So as we get into the end of this month-long competition, we're gonna be really seeing like which countries can squeak it out and make it up into the podium. If you look closely at the prizes for this event, Fly Surfer put up some crazy prizes. They put up like kites, boards, the whole thing for the winning team. Um, Second place gets a bunch of stuff from North. Third place gets wave fins. Some cool prizes. So that's the other thing I have in my eye. Woo
Yeah, it's
Worlds.
all to play for.
Yep.
Well, hopefully, everyone has a good time and everyone enjoys it. And I'm sure if you are listening to this podcast and you haven't dabbled with the Woo yet, then download the app. As Arlen said, you don't need to buy the
Mhm.
device. You can just get the app, get involved. And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks very much for your time, Arlen. It was great to chat.
Yeah. Fun to chat. Talk soon.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Kite Pod with me, Roo Chater. Brought to you by the team at iksurfmag.com, the world's #1 media outlet for kite surfing. A big shout out to our diamond supporters, Duotone, Cabrina, Core Kiteboarding, and Ozone for making this podcast possible. For daily news, videos, and updates from across the world of kite surfing, head over to iksurfmag.com. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us keep bringing you more great conversations. See you next time.